Hello, it's 9 p.m. in RTD. It's time to English New Edition for tonight headlines. We have the President of the Republic returns to the country. The launch of the first literary program, Mots d'ici et d'ailleurs, in RTD. For the international scene, shock and emotion after the death of the journalists of Al Jazeera in Palestine. Welcome to our newsroom. The President of the Republic returns to the country. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, returned to the country early Thursday evening following his participation in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire at the 15th summit of the Member State of United Nations Convention to combat desertification and drought. The United Nations Convention to combat desertification and drought is an integrated platform of the countries of the world for an efficient solidarity of the international community towards the problems heavy of consequences posed by the phenomenon of degradations of the terrestrial ecosystem and the reductions of arable lands opened with the summit of the head of state and government. The work of this conference, which began on May 9, will continue until May 20 throughout several events, including a meeting of the young people on the employment of land-related trades and discussions platform for women on the hardship of agricultural work, a business forum for the benefit of operators investing in the food industry. It should be also noted that on the sidelines of this international meeting, President Guelleh held separate talks with his Ivorian counterpart, Alassane Ouattara. The strengthening of the already privileged relations of friendship and cooperation between the two countries and the two peoples were at the center of the discussions during this meeting. This audience also served as a framework for the identification of economic partnership of mutual interests for the two states and the two populations. The President of the Republic and his Ivorian counterpart also took advantage of this meeting to discuss together several issues on the continental and international agenda. Early this morning, the Minister of Education with the Minister and the Minister of Communication have proceeded in the premises of Radio Television Djibouti to the launch of the productions of the first literary program entitled The Words From Here and Elsewhere. This new appointment, which is part of the National Week of Reading, is concocted by the executives of the MENFOP, which will be broadcast on RTD. The mission of this program is to give us a test for reading to young people and youngers. Indeed, reading is a basic element of schools and social knowledge. Faced with the omnipresence of the images, television, computer, video games, whose meaning is revealed to the child directly, reading which requires deciphering is losing momentum. Moreover, these initiatives will allow to instill a new dynamic to the young people. The Director General of RTD, Adan Abdi Jama, has indicated that these common ambitions that the two ministries carry in the early stages of the productions of this program, the two staffs of the two institutions that are MENFOP and the Minister of Communication flocked to the studio of the radio televisions to have a preview of this literary program. The Minister of Communication, Radwan Abdullahi Bahdoun, has indicated in his speech that this program, which foresees the broadcastings of several issues, will have to arouse in them the tastes for reading. This day was punctuated by several speeches of officials in favor of the books and readings, recalling the main lines and means of actions to serve this mobilization. The Minister of National Education and Vocational Training, Mustafa Muhammad Mahmoud, has indicated in a broader perspective, reading is as a great national cause, is part of this national commitment, which today constitute an opportunity to extend and amplify the daily actions of schools, not only to allow students to master reading, but also to promote in schools as well as outside this daily practice that is reading. The Minister of National Education and Vocational Training, Mustafa Mohammed Mahmoud, sponsored this Thursday, May 12, 2022, the closing ceremony of the second editions of the Week of English in Djibouti. This English Week, the event which took place at the People's Palace, was attended by several personalities, including the Minister of Communication, Radwan Abdullahi Badon, the Ambassador of Great Britain, the representative of the Embassy of United States of America, distinguished guests, and dozens of students from basic, intermediate, and secondary educations enjoyed story times, skills, and spelling contests. In English prepared for the occasion, the guides emphasizes the interests and values of English languages in a globalized world where the languages of Shakespeare is the tool of communication for excellence. In his speech, the Minister of National Education and Vocational Training, Mustafa Mohammed Mahmoud, who stressed that this second edition of the Week of English is part of the development of English languages in the redesign of the curriculum of our educational systems and reflects more than one way of the growing importance of the places of the English language in education, but also in professional life, in the development of our human capital. The minister recalled the importance of English in view of the geostrategic positions of our country in an English-speaking region and at the crossroad of continents and global maritime trade. The Minister of Health, Dr. Ahmed Robli Abdillah, chaired the preparatory meeting of the Intersectoral Committee for the permanent follow-up of the symposiums on health was held in the meeting room. This first preparatory meeting was attended by the representative of all health sectors in the countries, namely the executives of the Department of Health, the head of the health services of the various constitute bodies, a representative of relevant ministries, representative of the CNSS, those of the private sector. The aim is to prepare these broad and inclusive consultations which will be extended to the whole territories to involve more stakeholders for a collective reflections on health. The Minister of Health, Dr. Ahmed Robli Abdillah, delivered in his speech to recall the goals and objectives of these exercises of health, democracy, and consultations that aims to achieve the necessary structural reforms of the health systems of tomorrow. The Minister of Health recalled the goals, objectives, and expected results of these exercises of collective reflections of the health symposium. To this end, the Minister of Health indicated that the primary objectives of this symposium is to reflect together in order to lay the groundwork for reforms to build a health system that is strong, resilient, and equitable by 2030. A working meeting takes place between the Minister of Budget Ismail Ibrahim Roble and the delegation led by the coordinator of the United Nations system in Djibouti, Jose Barahona. The discussions between the Minister of Budget Ismail Ibrahim Roble and the coordinator of the United Nations systems in Djibouti, Jose Barahona, focused on ways to strengthen the cooperation links between the United Nations system in Djibouti and the Minister of Budget. The United Nations Systems Organization is based in Djibouti, support the Djiboutian government through a number of projects in several areas, including the sector of peace development and infrastructure support to the public and private sector. Recall that the Secretary General of the Ministry of Budget, Simon Membratu, and the staff of the coordinators of the United Nations system in Djibouti participate in this meeting. The Minister of Defense, the acting Minister of Defense in charges of relation with Parliament, His Excellency Saeed Nur Hassan, accompanied by Brigadier General Tahiru Ali Muhammad, the Chief of the Defense Staff, went on missions to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, from 10 to 12 May 2022 to take part in the 14th ordinary meeting of the Specialized Technical Committee on Defense, Safety and Security. Also note the presence in this meeting of our Ambassador Abdi Heibe. This meeting came to crown the work of the meetings of the Chief of Staff and Head of African Safety and Security Services held earlier on May 11, 2022 in Addis Ababa. The acting Minister of Defense Saeed Nur Hassan and his peers from the region adopted various projects submitted for their approvals during this session. These include the experts' reports, other relevant decisions, and African Union on peace security in Africa. This important meeting was officially opened by the Senegalese Minister of Defense and current chair of the meeting. In his opening statement, the Senegalese leader highlighted the main outcomes of the experts meeting, including the commitment of the member state to ensure sustainable funding for AU peace support operations. The chairman of the Ports and Free Zone Authority, Abubakar Omar Hadli, received at the Djibouti International Free Trade Zone Tower an important delegation is composed of representatives of the conglomerate Yangchang Petroleum Group led by Lu Shanggong, vice president of the latter, is founded in 1905. This group is mainly engaged in the exploration, production, transportation, and sale of oil, natural gas, as well as production and sale of petrochemical product. This visit is part of the implementation of the refinery project in Damerjog Industrial Park. A consultation workshop to launch the project to prepare the first biennial updated report on climate change. The Ministry of Environment organized a consultation workshop on the implementation of the project to prepare the first biennial update report on climate change. This workshop was chaired by the Secretary General of the Ministry of Environment, Sustainable Development, Dina Abdallah Omar, and was attended by executives of the Environment Department and members of the National Committee on Climate Change. The objective of this project is to help the Republic of Djibouti to prepare and submit its first biennial report to the Conference of the Parties of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. The Secretary General of the Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development, Dina Abdallah Omar, has indicated that the objective of this project is to help the Republic of Djibouti to prepare and submit its first biennial report to the Conference of the Parties of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. This Tuesday, the president of the Djibouti Basketball Federation, Jilani Mahmoud Douale, presided over the launching ceremony of the National Basket Championship with the participation of dozens of clubs of first, second divisions of the Women's Championship. The opening ceremonies were held in the presence of the members of the federation and other guests. The occasions included the distribution of sports equipment and supplies to the teams participating in the various competitions organized by the Djibouti Basketball Federation. In a speech addressed to him on this occasion, the president of the Basketball Federation expressed his joy at the opening of the National Basketball Championship. He also promised to do everything in his power during the coming period to achieve the aspirations of our countries in terms of raising the level of basketball in Djibouti, expanding and strengthening the scope of participation of our country, improving its presence in all international, continental, and regional events, and urge members of this administration to redouble their efforts to improve the performance of the federation in order to advance the basketball in the country. Still in the continuity of the awareness campaign of registration of the voters list, it was the turn of the youth of Wahle Daba district, the city 4 meter and city 8 meter, to launch the activities of door-to-door and proximity meeting in the different sectors of Balbala. The main objective was to massively mobilize the inhabitants of this large respective neighborhood to register on the electoral list open since April 28. It was also a question of sensitizing, informing the population, and also the count of the youngest having withdrawn their identity cards for the first time, but which we did not have yet the occasion to register on the register of the electoral card. It is to salute the dynamism and willingness of our youth that since the beginning of this campaign, launched last week in Blaus, more precisely in Arhiba, which are committed and ready to meet the challenges of an issue of the upcoming parliamentary elections, and also wishes to encourage the population to register massively on the voters list for the next legislature 2023, which is particularly important insofar as it will allow the President of the Republic to have a majority in the National Assembly to implement his presidential programs of 2021. The Regional Council of Dakhel held this morning a meeting to revitalize the activities of vaccination against COVID-19. This meeting was chaired by the prefect of the region of Dakhel, Adandrar Musa, and was attended by the president of the Regional Council of Dakhel, Mahad Hussein Ahmed, local elected officials, various deconcentrated services, religious leaders, community leaders, officials of the civil society. This meeting is part of the relaunch of the reinforcement and vaccination activity against COVID-19 in the interior region, more precisely in the Dakhel region. For the international scene, Shireen Abu Akleh, shock and emotions after the death of the Al Jazeera journalist Shireen Abu Akleh was one of the most famous faces of Al Jazeera. The Palestinian journalist was shot dead on Wednesday, 11 May, while reporting from Jenin. The Arab television channel and witnesses accuses the Israeli army. She was a target for Al Jazeera, the channel for which she worked. There is no doubt Shireen Abu Akleh was killed in cold blood by Israeli forces while covering clashes in the Jenin area of the occupied West Bank. The Palestinian Ministry of Health said in a statement that Shireen martyred herself after being shot by the Israeli army in the city of Jenin, while the Palestinian prosecutor's office opened an investigation into the crimes within the international community. Many voices are raised to demand a transparent investigation into her death. For Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, the journalist was probably a victim of Palestinian fire. This is it for the news. Thanks for watching us. Have a good evening.